Hello, it feels time to record another reading. I feel called to record this because I can definitely feel a trend in the collective right now. I'm feeling it in my own life. I'm feeling it in all of the people's lives I'm having conversations with right now. And I'm looking at the astrology and I'm seeing a pressure cooker kind of situation, but it's not necessarily a pressure cooker. It's more like a steam engine that would power a locomotive or some kind of train. And so I want to share this metaphor with everyone because I have a feeling things are going to begin moving relatively quickly in the next few days. But the pressure right now is it could feel confusing if we're not being given this metaphor. So before I totally get started, my name is Christina. In case you don't know me, I provide channeled messages that are based on the astrology, but definitely tap into fields that are sort of shaping and informing our consciousness and the evolution of our consciousness and giving us permission slips to really settle into the current present moment in nuanced ways. So I like to talk about it because I think that right now we're going through a massive deprogramming internally, externally, and I feel that what's emerging is a far more authentic experience of being alive than maybe we've ever given ourselves permission to feel. And we're in such an incredible threshold right now. And so I just want to lend my perspective to the story, and hopefully, my story validates your story and gives you permission slips to relax, feel into the moment a little bit better, let it sink in more deeply, maybe even shift stories that don't feel like they're working for you anymore, etc. So I'm looking at the energies for today as a jumping off point. And today we've got a Mars Venus trine, and they're both in fire signs. And, the vision I had for this was imagine that you've worked really hard to lay a track. You have an idea of where you want this track to take you. You've created a vessel or a vehicle. You've invited cargo. You've invited people, you've enrolled people into your dream, and everyone's seated in their seats. The engineer person that's kind of fueling this vessel, this train, is loading the fuel into the fire. And the fuel just keeps getting loaded on, and the fire is getting hotter and hotter. And that fire has a vessel of water that is being heated, and the water is beginning to boil. And as it's boiling, the steam is rising off the water and it's being contained in this compartment. Now, that compartment, the pressure that's building in that compartment will start to move the components that will begin the motion of the train. And gosh, it feels like we've we've been present, we've shown up, we've laid the tracks, we've done all the work, we've continued to have those conversations, we've invited people into our world with authentic expression, and it just feels like the pressure's building. And it's confusing sometimes when we feel the sensation of pressure. Sometimes we're like, is this right for me? It feels like I'm doing all of this stuff and the train's not moving yet. And I'm just feeling all of this like tension. I'm feeling all this pressure. And I don't even know why I should be feeling this pressure right now. Like I'm everything, it should actually just like nothing's going wrong. I'm not saying anything feels like it's going wrong in our worlds. It just could feel like a waiting period. It could feel like limbo. It could feel as though you're sort of hurrying up to wait for something, but you don't know what exactly you're waiting for. Maybe you're just like you've cultivated enough relationship with your somatic body. You know that you want to take some action, and your somatic body is ready-ish, but why are these tiny little obstacles still present? Why can't you just actually get the ship moving, right? Well, what I see is that tomorrow, when Saturn moves into Aries, when Saturn, the vessel, the container, seals tight in Aries, capturing all of that heat, the pressure will build enough to begin the initiation of that movement. And you can imagine this. You can imagine steam building, steam building. You're putting the fuel on the fire. Venus is like, give me more wood. And Mars is like, here's more wood. It's just growing and growing and growing. And when is it going to actually start to go? And I think it's going to start to go tomorrow. And I think today is the beginning of the facilitation of that. The Saturn movement into Aries is this like pressure cooker. It's the containment of that steam, directing all of the steam toward that new direction that you've been willing to go. And so Neptune is already there. Neptune is part of the water vessel. Neptune is part of so we've got Venus and Mars like putting the wood into the fire, and we've got the fire and Neptune is the vessel of water that's like releasing all the steam. So Neptune is our subconscious, unconscious. Neptune is the watery, spiritual, emotional. It is still a planet of fog and mist, even though Neptune is out of Pisces. When Neptune was in Pisces, it was like the dream, this huge vision, all of the ideal that we would love to bring into fruition, but it's okay if it's a dream, and who knows how many lifetimes it'll take to bring this to fruition, right? But now that Neptune's in Aries, in fire, all the steam is coming off of it. Like, all right, so what's real here? What parts of the dream are we going to actually bring into the tangible world? And so we've got the fire of, the fire's building, Neptune's off-gassing all this steam. Is now being trapped into Saturn's vessel. So you might feel some like rocks and hard places in your life kind of constraining the parameters. You could feel like you're stuck in a car, or you're stuck in a scheduling issue. I mean, there's 12 different places Aries shows up in your world, but there's going to be some kind of like commitment that you are agreeing to that will be your vessel of containment, in which you'll direct all of your steam into propelling toward your future. And so that's the kind of energy we're in today. I think that the engine will start to move tomorrow. And I think the energy will start to feel kind of exciting from that point. We've got the sun trining Pluto on that day as well. We've got Mercury conjunct Uranus on that day. And then shortly after, Mercury enters to Gemini, and we have the new moon in Gemini. So it's as soon as the train starts to move, all of a sudden the focus isn't so much on stacking up the fuel and getting the steam and beginning the movement. You can feel the anticipation in all of the passengers, like, when is the train going to get moving? When are we going to get going? And once the train's moving, the passengers stop thinking about that. Like, they forgot that they were even thinking about it. They forgot that they were even Nobody's thinking about that anymore. We're looking out the windows. We're seeing new terrain. We're having conversations. We're in movement. Like, that feels good. And so, you know, in the next couple of days, while we get this movement, all the conversations will start to change, and our focal points will begin to expand to broader horizons. Mercury conjunct Uranus in Taurus, that's like opening up to new ideas now that we've got this ship in motion, opening up to what's possible now that the new sustainability is beginning to be anchored, the new momentum is beginning to be anchored. So the new moon in Gemini is an opportunity to write a whole new story. Recently I watched the before sunrise, before sunset, and before midnight trilogy. And the whole thing started with a couple on a train facing these constraints and then suddenly writing a whole new story. And so much of that trilogy was based on the possibility that you could write a world into becoming. You could write your story into becoming, and the meanings that you make of things actually impact what you say yes to and what opportunities open up. So we're in a time where there's so much pure potential for that. There's so much curiosity can open doors that we hadn't even begun to think of. And so we're in a bubble. Like if you're watching this on, the 22nd or the 23rd or the 24th, um, just keep going. Just keep putting wood on the fire. Just keep holding the tension, keep holding the pressure. Know that the best things are cooked. I've got a couple of phrases. One of the phrases I have is that sometimes it's hard to value hard things. That's a Saturn lesson. Sometimes it's hard to value hard things, but if we can value hard things, that's the key because it's the hard things that are actually going to build our grit, our presence, um, build our capacity to pay attention. Uh, oh, the energy right now is also okay, if you are an entrepreneur or if you have initiated a big change in your life, if you've said yes to something that's feeling uncomfortable right now, and so you're in the hard thing, the best route to releasing kind of lower, like energy draining ideas about this is to ask yourself why you set out to do this in the first place. Like, why did you decide to move? Why did you decide to go on this car trip? Why did you decide to start this business? What is the function of this business? Why do you care so much? That's a really good question to ask right now because if you can get back to the kernel of why, it will remind you while you're waiting, why you're letting the pressure build. It'll remind you of what's worthy to do to value the hard things for. And then I also have here that progress doesn't look like progress when you're building pressure. This is a really important takeaway. Like in this moment, it's progress to continue to put flame into that fire and to continue to contain the steam. It doesn't look like anything's happening. It it looks like you're in limbo. It looks like you're in a liminal space, but progress doesn't look like progress when you're building pressure. And pressure is sometimes needed to get things moving. Um, this applies to so many different things. Like Aries can rule the muscles and physical health. You can think of a million reasons why valuing the hard things when you're building muscle is important, why progress doesn't look like progress when you're building muscle or building pressure. So that's definitely like in the field right now. Other notes I have, it's important to remember that at the beginning of May, Pluto began retrograding, and there was a lot of deeper long-term consequences to Pluto's retrograde. And the consequences, like some of the things that are coming up right now, we've had to make changes because of tariffs, right? Like we've had to step back and like rethink our approach because of these bigger changes that are happening in the world. Those types of things are because whatever we're creating right now, they must be of a certain vibration. And so a lot of new things started coming into the world, new ideas started to materialize in about October, November of 2024. And over the last few months, those have begun to materialize in the world. So we've got these new things, these new developments. And if you're seeing any kind of setback right now, not necessarily setback, but pause is more accurate to describe this. We're pausing because we have to make a couple of adjustments. We've got to change these foundational pieces before we can begin going. That's par for the course when we've got Pluto retrograding in a new sign, um, especially when it comes to things that we started creating after November, because they 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 were born in a time where the foundation is a vibration, not necessarily a legacy that was built before it. So anything that's new, that is a pioneer, if you think of it as revolutionary, if you think of it as groundbreaking, you're going to find that there are some fundamental foundational shifts that need to happen that will maintain its new vibration. It could be that you started out and maybe some of the old energy or old frequency or old paradigm, even old operating systems started to muddy the vibration just slightly. And this is our chance to, okay, let's take those out. Let's rewrite this. Let's peel that off and let's really dial this in the way we want it to. So that's something to keep in mind. Pluto will be retrograde for until the fall. I don't actually have the exact date on that, but all summer Pluto will be retrograde, and we'll also have Saturn retrograding and Uranus retrograding and Neptune retrograding all in the summertime. So we get all this like kind of new energy, and then everything kind of pulls back and is saying, okay, like in order to go forward, pull back slightly and begin again. So just know that's a really common rhythm in these years. And we did just start a time where the very first awareness around what those foundational shifts need to be, the very first ones of them are appearing right now. And these shouldn't be game changers. They're just like, if we're going to do this right, we may as well do X, Y, and Z, which is also part of the limbo that we might be feeling right now. Like, oh, if we're going to do this right, maybe we wait to have a couple of elements before we start setting all this in motion. So, um, I intended for this to just be a quick update because it's pretty much just covering the next few days. I just looked at the entire quarter ahead all the way till October, and I'm not ready to metabolize that in this form yet. I'm going to be recording all of my next quarter readings over the month of or before June 18th, because June 18th, um, well, actually not June 18th. I'm going to be recording them all before June 20th. Sorry, I got way ahead. Like June 18th is when Mercury retrogrades, or July 18th. Oh. See, this is why I can't go into the future. I'm not going in the future. I'm not going to do that quite yet. I'm just going to talk about right now. I'm not even recording these until next week because I want to get the locomotive moving before I try to press these into the world. They wouldn't serve people at this moment anyway in this pressure cooker. So I'm going to be in my own pressure cooker and finish up some things that are happening in my foundation before I start recording these things. But I did want to just talk about that so that in case you're trying to push something forward or you're concerned that you need to stop putting fire or fuel into the fire for some reason, now's not the time to stop putting wood on the fire. Everything's starting to boil. The boiling is creating the steam. The steam's going to move the engine. Like, trust it. Keep keep going. Keep being with it. Be patient. And kind of enjoy it. Like there's another way you could look at this. Like what other things feel great when you let them build and build and build before you let them go, you know? There's lots of things that are actually really valuable and meaningful and wonderful about building pressure. And if you can look at it that way, blah, all there is to do is just let it, let it, just receive it. It's good. I hope this serves you, and I'll record again. I'll record another one soon. Once I get into some of my quarterlies, I'll give a summary for the next quarter. All right. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much. Bye.